Hello everyone, Dusty Flag Guy here, and in today's video we're going to be checking out the Assassin's Creed Shadow port on Mac. And to be honest with you, it's a very disappointing port. There's not much more I can say, but we're still going to be looking more into it. So, for some reason, they said this game would run well on most Macs, and they even said on the App Store the game would run on M1 and newer, which they knew wasn't going to happen. And they still have it set to that on the App Store. But then if you go to the description, so the biggest issue with this port I find is that you can see here that it's #1 on the charts in my region. And if we go down, I've already left a bad review, but if we go down, it said it works with the M1 chip later. But then if you read the description, it says that it requires M1 Max or M3 and newer. So basically they already gave some fake information, which isn't very good, because people might see the compatibility and think that it can be played on M1, which it can't be. This is the M4, and they said this can run on it with the medium preset. Alright, so real quick, here is the benchmarking feature which we can access on the main screen. Keep in mind, I am recording on a different machine, but we're getting an average of 29 FPS, and this is right at the end of the benchmark, which really struggling. But we got an average of 30 FPS, which I think is actually pretty impressive. Anyway, onto the actual video. But they also make you play at, let's go to system, options. If we go to display, we're using METALFX set to, they recommend performance, but even at performance, we are running at a resolution internally of 384 by 216 pixels, which just, like, isn't a lot. And if we try turn off METALFX, which I guess you could do if you really wanted to, we'll just keep it to native. You can see the performance we're getting. It's not really playable at all, but there has to be some type of weird issue, because METALFX doesn't seem to be helping that much. Look, at native we're getting around 20 FPS, and this is at 1920 by 1080p. But if we put it down to 384 by 216, we're actually not getting that much better of a frame rate. I'm just going to uncap the frame rate limiter off, and then if we set it to performance, we're going to see that we don't actually get that much better of a frame rate, which is just a bit crazy. So there has to be something broken with this port. We can see we're getting around 32 FPS in the Kyoto region, which is, I believe, the biggest city in the game. So, with all of that stuff out the way, I guess we can just go into this. The settings I'm playing at, as you can see, we can go to options, scalability. I have ray tracing set to low, BHV low, screen space medium, light source low, shadow low, texture streaming pool very high. I've set this to this because it doesn't really affect performance, only really affects how much RAM you've got, and I've got 24 gigs of RAM on my machine. But we can actually see it's using well over 24. It's using around 29 gigs of RAM, but despite that we're not actually getting that big of a frame rate impact. But if you don't have a high amount of RAM on your machine, I would not set it to that. Postfix low, water quality low, particle low, loading distance medium, drawing distance low, micropolygon high. Again, this only really affects VRAM. Terrain very high, deformation low, scatter medium. This will look really bad if you set to low, so I set to medium. Virtual texture again only really affects the VRAM. Character quality medium, hair strands off, cloud low, low. So hair strands also affect the game's frame rate by a lot, but the game is playable. It's just a little bit disappointing that they claimed that this on the App Store. They claimed it would run on M1, which just isn't the truth. Which is, I think it's a pretty like a scumbaggy thing to do, because some people might not read the description and they might just see what it says on the App Store that it runs on M1 and later, and they might accidentally buy it and it doesn't run. I've tried it on my M1 MacBook Air. I've tried it on the M2 MacBook Air that my dad owns, and it doesn't run, which is just a little bit disappointing. I think it's because they don't have enough RAM, but even if you did have RAM, I don't think it'd still run. But if we do play on an M4 machine, we can see that we're getting a pretty acceptable frame rate, and I guess we'll just do this side mission. We're running through Kyoto, which is like the biggest city, and I do gotta say the METALFX does look insanely good, which is one thing I can say about this port. And it is pretty impressive considering this game, this machines that we're running it on doesn't have dedicated GPUs, but it seems like the optimization in this game is really lacking. Other than that, the game is actually pretty fun. I do not regret getting it on this instead of my PS5. Again, just anything to support Mac gaming. even if it's a bad port, I still want to support it. I do not mind playing single player games at 30 FPS, but you might, and if you do not pick this up. Even though there are huge issues, like for some reason, even on really maxed out computers, they still don't run well. If you look at, I believe it's Mr. MacRight's video, even if he's using like the M4 Max, I believe he's using, or the M3 Ultra, the game still does not run good at all. He can barely hit 60, which is just disappointing. Like, you really expect this game to run better on like a really maxed out chip. But I believe there's some optimization issues. Like, as we can see, we're not getting that much of a performance game when using MetalFX, which is really strange. The PC version is like that too, with you pretty much having to use DLSS to enjoy the game. I mean, I saw 5090s running the game at like 30 FPS. That's not very good. Luckily, the upscaling does look really good. As you can see, this is technically running at like 200 pixels. And it's a pretty sharp image. I know it'll be compressed on YouTube, but honestly, you could fool me and trick me into believing this is native 720p. It honestly looks pretty good. But we're just going to do the side mission. It's not really spoilers, but I guess it is. It's for the side character. Let me check. It's for the Greninja storyline. So if you care about that storyline, which is a very minor side story, do not watch this part. I couldn't think of anything else, but I think we're infiltrating an area, so it might be pretty demanding. I'm going to leave the frame rate uncapped, but I would recommend just capping it at 30 FPS. This game does support ray tracing. I saw a lot of people claiming that the game forces ray tracing, which it does not. It only forces ray tracing when we are in the hideout, which I barely ever go. I think I'm like a good 10 hours into the game. Let me check. About 11 hours into the game. And I haven't really ever visited the hideout that much, which is pretty impressive. Although I do have to say, I doubt this game is going to run on iPad. They did claim an iPad port is coming, but I wouldn't hold my breath for it. I would not be surprised if it gets cancelled. About to be enemies. I guess we can just get into a battle so that we can test the performance. Get this guy with armor first. Oh, and my special armor actually threw that, and we can use special moves, which shows a really nice effect. As you can see, the performance doesn't really drop well with fighting, and we're still getting a lock 30 with MetalFX. Although I do got to say, MetalFX does look pretty good. So there's really ups and downs of this port. I am genuinely enjoying playing this game on this machine. It does have dips. Like, I had to go to this bamboo area, and the frame rate was so bad. Let me go to it actually. So as you can see, I'm not even already at the bamboo area, and my frame rate's already kind of dipping. We're just in like a forest type area, and you can see the frame rate's already dropping. It's still staying at 30, which I think is impressive, but I mean there is a lot of vegetation, but also you are going to get dips when going into the wildlife areas. So I've actually found an objective to climb up here, so we can scout the area. This should load in everything, so this will be pretty telling of the performance. Oh, and here's some enemies to test fight. So this game also features 2 protagonists, which is pretty fun. I mean, you can also build your character. It's like an RPG, and it's still pretty cool that we're getting this game day 1. And I do think there will be patches, but there's also another issue I was facing where I can't even access the store, and it's been like probably like a few days since the games came out, and you'd think they'd want to fix the store, like the battle pass. I guess that's kind of blissful that I'm not getting pop-ups for the battle pass, but it's like halfway loading in. Let me actually showcase that. Just loot this. But the frame rate wasn't really dropping that much in battle, but if we go to Anumis, which is like the new area, Animus, not Anumis, you can see that it tries to load it. We can see that it loads the currencies at the top right behind the metal counter, but it just can't. And if we try open the store, we'll just straight up get an error. There we go. And I know I'm connected to Wi-Fi, even Ethernet on this machine, so it can't be that. Maybe it's just my region, but I don't know. Alright, so we can climb up here. We are actually going up into the 40s when climbing. With the new rendering mode, I believe how it works is it renders only the place you're looking at, which is standard, but it uses micro polygons instead of the normal just meshes. So This is a very lush environment, and we're still getting 30. So all things considered, this is pretty impressive if you consider 340p impressive. But the upscaling does look good. And the upscaling is required pretty much on every machine, even 5090s. So we can view this whole area. There's Kyoto. This is a very nice looking game. You can see it's loading in so much trees. And they're not really losing detail at a distance either, which is pretty impressive. We see a castle up there. So looking into the distance with all this loaded in, we're still getting 30 FPS. But then if I go to the bamboo area, hold on a second. If I go to it, it will drop our frame rate by a lot. Another thing to consider, I know a lot of people are disappointed the game can't run on M1 machines. But those machines are nearly 5 years old, so they're kind of showing their age. They're going to be 5 years old this year. So it's not that big of a surprise that a AAA game can't run on them, although it is disappointing. And here we are in the bamboo area. As you can see, the frame rate is tanking, and we're not even in the main bamboo area. Or there might be some people to fight here. No, there aren't. So if we were to shoot, but as you can see in the bamboo area, we're getting a really bad frame rate. To be fair, this is loading in a lot of vegetation, which we can cut down. Let me swap to this, and look how cool this is. It has lots of destruction. So use this, and look at that, cut it all down. So the game is actually pretty freaking fun. I will say that. I used to play Assassin's Creed when I was like really young, like 10 years ago, and I'm pretty old now. But other than that, I find this game pretty fun. It's the first Assassin's Creed game I've played in ages, I think, since Origins. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. Oh, the season is changing, which is another aspect I need to say. The frame rate might change from season to season. Like here we're going into autumn, so it looks pretty nice. Maybe this is spring, I can't really tell. And yeah, basically as the game progresses, the season's going to change, which is pretty fun. But now we're playing as Yasuke, and let's go do some PvP. I'll be attacked on sight. So he can't really do parkour, but he can kind of do it. I don't know, it's kind of hard. Let me just try fight these people, but he is really good at fighting, which is cool. Let these people see me actually. We actually have a gun, which is pretty funny. Boom, sniped him before he snipes us. Just get the guard's attention. Alright, now I'll actually go battle him. I just didn't want to get melee. Why is it going slow-mo? This is a really, really strange glitch. Okay, that's weird. I don't think that's my armor. Let me check though. Maybe that's my armor. That's not my armor. The game just glitched and randomly went slow-mo. That is really strange. But as you can see, this character is like the tank character that you can kind of just run in and attack people in. Really high level weapons like a big katana. And he can also just bash through doors, which is pretty cool. So the game involves parrying. I think it's really fun, actually. So there's an enemy here. He was about to snitch on us, and here is a thing called I believe it is Assassin Shinobi, so we kind of need to battle him to finish this area. So these people are kind of low level guards, but see they're defending the Samurai Daisho. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Slice him. We got to kind of break his shield. That's the yellow health bar. That dude has a gun, which we can't block bullets. So this dude is kind of like a boss. I am playing on normal difficulty for combat, but I am playing on expert stealth. The game is actually kind of like, reminds me of a Dark Souls style game. Maybe I'm imagining it. But there's like parrying, which I think is pretty cool. And when you're about to finish them, you get a cool animation. And you can block and parry. Like here, I'm about to get an animation. Oh, if he doesn't kill me. There we go. I don't think I can show that on YouTube. I did actually do a live stream, which a lot of people watched, which was pretty cool. Haven't live streamed in ages, let alone had an audience when live streaming. But as you can see, in a pretty demanding area, we're in the middle of Kyoto in a big castle. We're still getting a pretty steady frame rate. Well, I wouldn't say steady, but it's not dropping too much. It's definitely playable. Oh, and I failed. Unlucky. Alright, and we've respawned. It actually loads you in pretty fast in this game. Which, if you're going to be dying a lot, you would hope so. I found the game pretty challenging, which I actually enjoy. Although I don't really play these types of games. So that dude's just a low level. Like, alright. We just barged into that dude. I didn't even know you can do that. We'll chuck him away. Try to get this archer so he can't hit us from a distance. And you can actually dodge. You nearly died there. Oh, and we died, and I guess that's where we call it. So overall, the Mac port is very disappointing, but it's playable, and Ubisoft kind of lied. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.